Welcome to another video on Diaspora. Before we start the video on Diaspora part 2, I would recommend you to watch the part 1. If you haven't watched the part 1, go and check it out. Before even diasporic writing came into being, there was a pre-colonial period in India, because of which diaspora became so popular in India. In diaspora, the binary of here and there always works, as the writers like Jhumpa Lahiri's writings focus on two spaces. In her work, the namesake is set in two places parallelly, Kolkata and New York City. Twice displaced diaspora and unfixed shelves signal a diasporic awareness that cannot be contained within theories of diaspora. The migrants challenge the theories of diaspora, which fail to consider the different and uneven experiences of migration. What does the word colonial mean, which changed Indian history? Colony, as the word, has been derived from colonus, the Latin term, and referred to a planter or the settler in different land. From the meaning itself, we can understand what colonialism means. Let's now understand how Indian education was before colonialism. We are not going into details. We'll briefly discuss the pre-colonial period, otherwise it would be an Indian history class. Before the period of colonialism, India's literature was flourishing with mostly Sanskrit language. The text would be transmitted from the Guru to the Shishya. Initially, education was open to all and seen as one of the methods to achieve moksha in those days, or enlightenment. Literature in Sanskrit deals with dance and drama, philosophy and grammar, history and politics, astronomy and astrology, algebra, medicine, and jurisprudence. There were many important scholars and thinkers like Bharata Muni, who gave the theory of Natya Shastra, Kalidasa's Sakuntala, Meghaduta, etc., Valmiki's Ramayana, Vyasa's Mahabharata, Shubhandhu's Vasavadatta, Panini and Aryabhatta. After the colonialism of Britishers, it was when the humans of India and their cultures were exploited. In the 19th century, when India's identity was in crisis, it's the time when Rabindranath Tagore challenged the colonizers through his work. Colonizers' English language also started to influence the people, which gave birth to the famous Indian writers like Mulk Raj Anand, R.K. Narayan, Salman Rushdie. Their writings mostly focused on the Britishers' exploitation of India. As you can see, a language can change the entire identity. Britishers' main focus was on changing the language so that the Orientals can adopt their language, because language is the medium to change the national culture. They used the language as a cultural tool and successfully penetrated their language into the Indian's mind. Narayan argues that the Indian English has to gain its own character. Although the text has been cited so often, I shall reproduce it largely one time more here. English is not really an alien language to us. It is the language of our intellectual makeup, like Sanskrit or Persian was before, but not of our emotional makeup. Our method of expression therefore has to be a dialect, which will someday prove to be as distinctive and colorful as the Irish or the American. As you can see, the growing influence of English in India. Now let's talk about what happened after the Indian independence, that is, the post-colonial period. Indian writers had to deal with a range of sub-themes like rootlessness, alienation, discrimination, hybridity, labor exploitation, corruption, poverty, and marginalization. Of all, the domain is the post-colonial Indian English literature. Novel emerged to be the most effective and successful one. Post-colonial writers relied on the acquainted language and started to think as their own. Some post-colonial thinkers write on the domineering and the subjugated communities. The writers are Edward Said, Gayatri Spivak, Homike Bhabha. After the independence, some Indians started to settle in foreign. Those who went out, they formed the first diaspora, were members of the working class or the farming community. Most of them were illiterate. Thus they carried all the legends, myths and folk narratives with them to their new lands, which were primarily oral in nature. And they composed songs and poems, tales and stories, skits and plays, while reflecting their new socio-cultural in reality and sharing with one another. Later, some more literates migrated to Canada and they started to flourish the Indian culture through their tales. They narrated their various experiences through their writings. Soon, some of them became household names. Salman Rushdie, V.S. Naipaul, Rohinton Mistry, M.G. Vasanji, Bharati Mukherjee, Faida Karodia, Anita Desai, K.S. Maniam and Jhumpa Lahiri, etc. So guys, just now I have mentioned some prominent Indian diasporic writers. Let's understand two of them briefly. So first is Rohinton Mistry. Rohinton Mistry is perhaps most visible among the Indian immigrant novelists of Canada. With books like Such a Long Journey, A Fine Balance, Family Matters and Tales from Firozabad. Mistry focuses his authorial gaze primarily on his own community, namely the Parsis. Next is Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie is interested in a third world counter narrative. He fictionalized history using magic and fantasy. For Rushdie, history is always ambiguous. Facts are hard to establish and capable of being given many meanings. He prefers the mode of fairy tale narrative to present the history in facts. The novels by Rushdie focuses on magic realism are Midnight's Children, Shame, Shalimar the Clowns, etc. Diasporic writing focused on basically home and world, where homes stand for one's own culture, own nationality, whereas the world stands for the other which we have adopted, which is not our own. Because of this experience, the terms like alienation, homelessness were introduced by the writers, because they were lacking the homely feeling in that other place. Hope you liked the video. See you next time.